Lorenzo Neal, it's a good day to believe in Chargers as coming off a huge victory Friday night in Brazil, set the tone for the 2025 campaign. You hear the sweet guitar riff there at the start. That would be my daughter, Preston Smith, spelled with a Y, Prestyn. Follow her on Instagram, Facebook. She's a bigger star than I am these days, Lo. It's getting a little crazy what the kid is doing. Over 500,000 on TikTok and
It's
over
awesome.
100,000 now on Instagram. So thanks to all of you for following her and stuff. But that's what you get there at the start. And Lo, I see you got the Brazil hat on. You were down there. Did not have a chance to see. I was down on the field for a while, but had to pop up. Not the easiest stadium to navigate.
No,
Just a couple elevators that took a long time, so had to play it safe. Bummed I didn't come across you, but certainly, judged by the videos and your Instagram and stuff, looks like you had a heck of a time out there as well.
absolutely, money. I couldn't agree with you more. I got lost. I came down trying to get to the field, all the turns, all the different places. You're walking through a parking garage on the bottom,
Yeah.
walking into walls. I'm like, the field's over there. How do I get through there? Guys telling me, no, you got to go around. And the English barrier that you had, it was tough. So I did look for you, but I tell you, it took me a long time to get down there. About 30 minutes. I was dripping wet in the time I got to the field.
Yeah, had a great time. It was an awesome atmosphere. It was an electric atmosphere. The fans were great. The people of Brazil, God love them. Just had an awesome time. Quickly to summarize my trip down there, we got down. Team took off Tuesday night late, probably 9:30ish, wheels up. So it was just kind of an overnight flight. I have no idea what everybody else was doing, but I slept about 8 hours, so that worked out great for me. I may have skirted protocol and immediately snatched my passport back from them. They're like, "What do you need your passport for?" I was like, "What do you need my passport for?" And I snatched it and rented a car and drove down to Juqueí Beach and was able to surf a couple days. And the people were amazing. The food was incredible. I absolutely loved our time in Brazil, and obviously the Chargers did as well. By the time I got back to the team hotel Thursday midday, I went down Wednesday afternoon, surfed Wednesday afternoon and night, and then Thursday morning drove back. It's about a 2.5 hour drive. And by the time I got back to the hotel, it was awesome to see all the players bonding, ping pong, board games. It was very similar to Charlotte, where everyone was together. They were at the pool. They were doing movement in the pool. It was beautiful out, and you could just see the guys were really having a good time together. And I think that spilled over onto the field.
Oh, no question. You could tell the way they played, the energy they played with. How was the water compared to on this side compared to that side? I got to ask you, money. You know what?
Yeah.
You went down that rabbit hole. I got to just poke the bear a little bit. How was it? How was the waves? How was the water? Was the temperature? Was the same? What'd you think?
So it's funny. The waves were great. I don't want to take too much time because I know the people want to talk
I
about
know, I
the
know.
Charger victory. But I think a lot of people were curious as to, did you feel safe? I felt totally safe. People were nice. I had no issues whatsoever. The place I served, Juqueí Beach, and then there was a second one. Started with a B. I can't remember the name. Barrios, I think is what it was called, was the other break. They were both fun. They weren't as big as I had hoped. I thought I was going to maybe get some overheads, probably more 4 to 6 range. The water. So I show up in trunks. Just a swimsuit, little board shorts. And the guy that I'm surfing with, this former pro, this guy, Tiago, is in a full suit. And I'm like, oh no, did I read it wrong? Is there something lost in the conversion of Celsius to Fahrenheit? And he's looking at me and I'm looking at him, and the guys that are in the water already are in full suits. So I'm like, oh, well, whatever. I guess I'm just going to be cold. That's what it is. I've done it before.
Yeah.
It's the warmest water I've been in all year. And
Wow. Ooh.
and they were like, and he had to get out a little early because he said it was cold. So that's
Wow.
what they're used to, He said, oh
Yeah.
yeah, he goes, by December, this water will be, basically the equivalent of about 85, 90 degrees, which is just gross. So for me, I'm used to surfing in between mid 50s and, low 70s is my range. Winter is mid 50s. Summer
Right.
is, if it's
Right.
warm when I'm wearing my just swim, my shorts, my trunks, it's in the low 70s. So it was wonderful. It was great. The waves were fun. Everybody was great. And I had just tip of the cap to Brazil. I'd be more than happy to go back there again and again and again. I had such a good time.
Yeah, yeah. So did I. I had a great. The food was great, like you said. The people were great. The town, it's a big town. 20 million people fitting in that town. So probably it was awesome experience for me in the game. I
Yeah.
know that stadium was rocking. I love the national anthem. Watching the Brazilian, how many of those people got there singing, and just like it was like wow. I'm like, man, I'm out of the country, and this place is rocking. You felt the energy. People are standing up throughout the game on the big third downs. They understand the importance of sports, and that country loves their sports. And I'll tell you right now, the Chargers did not disappoint. They played awesome.
Yeah, I've said it all the time. People that were complaining about them losing a home game, and look, with the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift thing, not to mention all the Super Bowls, the Chiefs have an international fan base. I mean, it's obviously going to be more considerable than what the Chargers have because of their success. When you think about the international, not
Oh, sure,
nationally, internationally
sure.
televised games that the Chiefs are part of. But I said, you talk to the players, and Lo, you can speak to this. They said they just don't care. They're like, just give me energy. That's all I want. Give me juice. I don't care what color the jerseys are. I don't care about just give me fans and they were standing the whole time and they're screaming the whole time. And you could see the players were feeding off that. They had bounce in their step. They had juice in their movement. And I think, and look, it still looked like an international game. You're looking around and there's every jersey imaginable. It's,
Right.
it's 49ers jerseys, Broncos jerseys, Packers jerseys, Eagles jerseys,
Yeah.
all of that. So it still had that. For people complaining about the end zones, this is the first year they've decided to shift that. So the Chargers were the first game, and everyone just assumed that the Chargers were getting the short shrift, as I did as well. But I had a chance to catch up. We had a chance to catch up with the commissioner before the game, and he just said, no, it's a shift they're making where every international game is now, even though it's a designated home game, they still want to put each team's logo in the end zone. They think it's just a better branding sort of deal for the international contest to have both that out there and to rep both teams.
Yeah, and I didn't think anything was wrong with that. You still got to see these both teams showcase their talent, showcase their pride, and there was a lot of Charger fans there. But yes, Kansas City, they totally took over. It was, we know Kansas City is definitely a more worldwide international brand. But I just thought it was great when you saw the left side, the right side of the fans hold up NFL and the Brazil signs. It was pretty neat. The lights, the flashing lights, and how they had the choreograph with the music and the beats and the lights flashing. I was like, man, this place is really rocking. They know how to get behind some sports. So I just enjoyed the whole experience in the game. Was an experience within itself.
Yeah, and a big thank you to our friends at FanDuel. They help us put this thing together. So tip of the cap to FanDuel. We talked about it last week going into the game, Low, about that over-under at 46.5. And you thought about what those games looked like last year, the defensive tone that was set from each of these squads and how they were both low-scoring games and whether or not, that was the right play, was to go over that 46.5. Of course, it just hit. They do a heck of a job with that at 48, 27-21. But I'll tell you the thing that and I look today, what do we got? We got Raiders laying. Raiders are getting 3, so the Chargers are favored by a field goal. Monday Night Football in Vegas, over under at 46.5 is kind of what we're looking at for this one. So similar number. I would say the Raiders defense not nearly as formidable as what Steve Spagnuolo's putting out there. Of course, you do have a pretty darn good front led by Max Crosby, Pete Carroll coaching up that secondary against New England, and it was pretty impressive considering the personnel, what they were able to do. We'll dig into that in a minute. Want to look back at the game first, but the thing that jumped out to me immediately, and we said it as soon as we got the inactives in the booth. We were in the middle of the pregame, and we said, okay, certainly Greg Roman's got some ideas here, because we thought about the way this roster was made. We talked about all the 22 and all the 13, and you get the inactives, and all 6 receivers are active, and Arande Gadsden and Tucker Fisk are both inactive. And you're like, okay, maybe it's not going to be bully ball. Maybe they're going to spread this thing out and whip it all around the yard. And Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh see something with this Chiefs defense that is leading them to maybe take a different approach than we thought they were going to take. And boy, was that the case. We have not seen that many first down passes from Justin Herbert since Harbaugh and Roman arrived. And that certainly was their approach, is we're not going to run this thing into that line and try to loosen things up. Instead, we're going to whip it around the yard and force them to try to figure it out. And the Chiefs defense never could.
Yeah, I thought it was very unique because you look at the Chargers and what Harbaugh wants to do. He wants to go play action, run the ball, make you get up. And he didn't let them have time to adjust. When you do that, sometimes that's the negative side of that. When you're going to line up and say bully ball, defenses can settle in and start saying, okay, we know they're going to run, they're going to set up play action. When you come out and you run up tempo, and I love the way that they played up tempo, spreading guys out, Justin getting rid of the ball, not holding the ball in his hand long, and finding out when he could take off and take off, run, make plays with his legs. I just thought they played a complete game. And the thing about it is, like, they played faster than Kansas City. It was interesting to watch this game because I took away the biggest takeaway with me is this Charger team is good because I watched the team 2 nights ago. Last night, you probably watched the Monday night game. You saw Chicago Bears, and you saw when they played against Minnesota. You saw Chicago Bears team struggle and let a team make a field goal before half. All those different things, just like the Chargers did, but it cost them. With the Chargers, you're a good team because even though you made some mistakes and you allowed this team, you say could have put them away earlier, you allowed them to come in and stay in it. They found a way. That's what I love. I
Yeah.
love that this team was challenged, but they found a way to win a tough fought game and find a way to win that game because it didn't have to be that close, but they still found a way.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lo. They had an answer. And before, look, it just happened last season, right? They jump up to a 10-0 lead and they surrender 17 unanswered. They don't score again.
Right.
When adversity and look, this game is the same way, right? They jump out to a 10-0 lead. They force back-to-back 3-and-outs. And then all of a sudden, you mentioned the field goal. Marion Hampton, unfortunately, young guy, and credit Coach Harbaugh for saying, look, that's on me. And I think some people are like, oh, he's just saying that. He's being a good guy. And no, I think he does bear some of that responsibility. So does Justin Herbert in that huddle. When you've got a young guy who's in his first game, it's in
Remind
Brazil,
him.
all the bright lights, you have got to say, hey, man, this ball's coming to you. Make sure you go down and bounce. Get as many yards as you can for Cam so we can get this field goal off. But no matter what, get down and bounce so we're not leaving them but 5 seconds left. And so I think Harbaugh did mean that sincerely. Like, yeah, that's on us. You can't. Yes, he's played football his whole life, and he's played at a high level at North Carolina, and he's a first-round pick, and he's 22 years old. But it's his first NFL game, man, and you're playing against the 3-time Super Bowl champion in the last 5 years. So they still had an answer, right? Even though it felt like momentum slipped away with that field goal, they come out, go 3-and-out on their opening offensive possession. The Chiefs march down the field, get a touchdown. There it is. They got 9 unanswered points, and they hold up for that 2-point conversion. Or I should say the missed extra point helped them out a lot after that touchdown. Right. And then they had the answer. Justin Herbert had every answer to every challenge that was placed in his lap. The one I'll tell you, I got it pulled up now, Lo, because I do want to get into the passing. He threw for 318. He had probably behind Josh Allen the second best performance of a quarterback all week. In week 1, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, averaging 9.4 per attempt. So he's pushing the ball down the field, spread the ball out to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 different receivers, caught a ball. But I'll tell you what jumped out to me as I'm pulling it up here. I didn't know, you and I had this talk last year, right, about Keenan, and oh man, we miss Keenan, and I said, yeah, but you got Ladd, man, and Ladd's, he's better. That's just the reality of it, right? He's better, and I don't know if bringing Keenan. Then we had this conversation again in the offseason, and I'm like, I don't know if bringing Keenan back because Keenan's 80% in the slot, Ladd's, or I think Ladd was like, I think just under 70% of his snaps were taken from the slot. I'm like, I don't know if that makes sense. And they signed Mike Williams, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Let's get that big X on the outside. And then Mike retires. They sign Keenan. I'm like, all right, well, I guess we'll figure it out. And the whole time, Greg Roman told us, he's like, these guys can move all over. We got this, man. And then I'm looking at the line, at the formations, and holy cow, man, he wasn't that was not lip service. You got basically Keenan, Ladd, and Q all split the slot equally. And I'm looking at their routes right now. I got them pulled up here, Lo. So here is, let me get my filter going because I got too many people. So I'm going to get my filter going. Here's what we got on our receivers. Keenan Allen, what does he do best? Here's his, I turn the blitz off. Sorry. Keenan Allen goes, sorry, let me get this cleared out. I screwed this whole thing up. I'm terribly sorry.
No, it's all right.
Keenan Allen outs, ins, and hitches. That's 75% of his routes, right? and that's obviously what Keenan does best, right? Ladd, 33%, so 66% ins and hitches. He had 17% of his routes were go balls, and then here's the one I love more than anything, man. Guess what? Guess what? Q's highest percentage of routes run were
Goes.
crossers.
Huh.
Crossers. That's what he excelled at
Yeah.
TCU. Just get him on those crossing routes. That's what led to that touchdown.
Yep.
And let him just turn on the jets and pull away from his defender, get the ball in his hands in stride. Q had a heck of a game.
He did.
And I think you look at what Greg Roman was able to do, and you got Q in the slot just as much as you have Ladd or Keenan. I loved the way he deployed his receivers, and we saw, and you heard, I don't know if you saw, Justin Herbert was with Mark Sanchez. It's a cool little video. It's called Rear View. But Justin said to Mark, he's like, hey, man, Ladd and Keenan on the same side, that's a problem.
It's a problem.
That's a problem. And we saw it, man. That was a problem.
And there was several times he could have hit either one, both of them, one on their routes. I saw him, look, Ladd breaks open, Keenan breaks open, he goes to Keenan, and both times open and goes to Ladd. These two guys can create separation, and they know how to beat their defenders. I love the way that they went out there with Greg Roman, how he deployed his receivers, moving guys around, beating them on the short game, intermediate pass, took some shots, but it was just a controlled offense. They sprinkled in a run. You saw the running back hit the hole, hit it hard, pick up some runs on the outside, get downhill. This guy's going to be a good runner. I just love the poise that we wanted to see. You and I, we talked about guys go head to head. Josh Allen Sunday head to head with Lamar Jackson. Both quarterbacks played well, but who at the end was still standing? Josh Allen from Buffalo, finding a way to beat Lamar Jackson. This was a game for Herbert. Herbert needed this win. He went head to head with Mahomes. Mahomes comes down. They tie the miss extra point. They're right back in this game. And you said, oh my goodness, did the Chargers give Kansas City too many chances and didn't put them away? Because there is a chance in there. And I know this drive you're very familiar with. It's 1st and goal, money. They get a holding. They get a friggin' a personal foul. And Justin picks up, brings it down to the goal line, to the 3-yard line. Now it's 1st and 30.
Yeah.
You got to realize, they're talking about that. You went from scoring a touchdown, 7 points, to possibly not even scoring. And a lot of teams in that situation, when you know that you're going to be on the 3-yard line, you go from being on the 3-yard line back to the 30-yard line. That's a huge momentum, and that's one of those Debbie Downers for the team. And what did they do? The way that they responded, I was like, God, is this going to call? You know, you always are looking for moments in the game that you're going to be able to reflect and say, that was a moment that broke their back. That was a moment that the Chargers had this game, could have put Kansas City out of their misery, go in and score, and you're by doing their 17 points before half. You look at these and say, my God, and you're like, is this going to come back and bite them? And then you know what? But that's why I know this is a good team. This is what's given me hope about this Charger team. I know it's week 1 and it's early, but the way that they were able to overcome adversity and still win that ball game, that says a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that play, Lo, because I thought, to me, it was the best play of the. Well, look, the best play of the game was Herbert reading Chris Jones, getting a little, hero ball in his brain and deciding to jump inside of Trey Pipkins and break contain so Herbert can run to seal the game, for on a 3rd and 13 for 20 yards. So that's the best play of the game. But that and it works hand in hand to the point I'm making. We talked to Greg Roman in training camp, and and it was something that we talked about on the broadcast, during the games on the broadcast repeatedly. Is like, man, it's there. Herbert's not taking it, man. It's there. Look at all that green. And he just said, and he told us, he's like, look, man, we kept that thing under wraps. We did a pretty good. I think the way he said it, he kind of got this wry smile. He's like, yeah, we kept that thing under wraps pretty good, didn't we? A lot of people did not know that Justin was as beat up as he was, that his foot was as bad as it was, that his ankle was as bad as it was all season long. He said he couldn't, he couldn't run, like it wasn't in the cards. And, and we talked about this before when he said, look, I want him running. I want him out. Well, you look at, and we've talked about this with the injuries. The injuries to quarterbacks happen when they're in the pocket and they don't see it coming. When they can move the launch point, they see more and they're able to protect themselves better. And on top of that, we know from his history, with Andrew Luck at Stanford, with Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith in San Francisco, with Josh Allen in Buffalo, with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. He wants his quarterback running. He needs that threat. And so you saw that immediately. First play of the game. What's Justin do? Tuck, see you later, 9 yards. But that play that you spoke about, that Jamari got flagged for the holding. So Amarian has a beautiful run. Ladd gets called for the holding, becomes a 1st and 20. On 1st and 20, Justin rushes for 23 yards to get back to the 2-yard line. And basically it's one of the best runs we've seen him make in 2 to 3 years.
No
where
question.
He hits that right corner, stiff arm, juke, another stiff arm, lowers the shoulder to get the extra 5 yards at the end to pick up the first down. Like, even when it got called back in that moment, Lo, on the broadcast, DJ and I said, look, man, it's a bummer that it got called back, but now that we know that's there and that exists again, oh man, do we feel good. Man, do we feel good just knowing that exists in 2025. That is a huge, huge advantage for the Chargers to know that Herbert is back to being Herbert and that's out there.
Oh, it was. I was in the stands watching that play. I'm like, man, this kid, the dead leg, the stiff form, like you said, and then getting skinny, getting to the sideline, dropping his shoulder. The guy played unbelievable. And the way that he controlled the game, the clock, composure, getting guys in and out of the huddle, just his command. It was Justin Herbert at his best. I understand Kansas City coming off the Super Bowl, all the different things they've been. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to them. Is this Denver and the Chargers? Is this a two-game race? We don't know. The Raiders look good too. So it's kind of early to make any predictions because we don't know how well Kansas City is going to be. They could have that hangover. They could be just getting a little older, getting a little tired. But what you saw in week 1 with the Chargers collectively, the way they played defense, the way that they covered receivers, not giving up really a lot of big balls. Yeah, before halftime that won, but when you think about a lot of things, they kept everything in front of them. Didn't, Mahomes is going to be Mahomes at times when you break contain. But I thought collectively, when you can hold this team under 20 or less, and that was we talked about, I said, first team to 21 wins this game. It's not going to be the first team to 30. No, it was a game that that both these teams are going to hang their hat on defense. Ball control, defense, controlling the clock. This is how these two teams want to play, and the Chargers outplayed the Chiefs at the game that they wanted to play.
Yeah, and they did it, by throwing it around, by leaning into, their most valuable player and letting Justin Herbert cook, for, not to try to take it away from Russ and the whole let Russ cook thing, but, they were like, hey, it was Breer, my old colleague over there at NFL Network, Albert Breer, who now works for Sports Illustrated, who had the piece in his recap of the weekend. The Chargers piece was about Greg Roman, and it's not even close. I mean, it's the best game that Greg Roman's called since he's been with the Chargers. Of the what would it be, 19 games that he's called for them, far and away the best game. And I think it's important to remember for all the people, and we've been preaching this for a while, all of the just Greg Roman and what this is not the right guy. And we just said, man, the guy had nothing last year. He had Gus Edwards, who didn't have any juice left. He had J.K. Dobbins, who would give you an explosive play or maybe two, and then a whole lot of nothing. The run game was not effective. He had an interior line that just was not operating at high efficiency. He had tight ends. Hayden Hurst was never right. He had no pass-catching tight end. He had a Justin Herbert who had plantar, followed by a high ankle sprain in week 2. So and now he's got a legitimate pass catching tight end in Tyler Conklin, who averaged 24 yards per catch on Friday. He's got a legitimate, I know the numbers, you got to watch the game. When I went back and watched the film, it was even more impressive. Amarian Hampton's got juice, man. He's got juice. He's pass pro. He had 2 runs, one that hit the right edge, one that hit the left. That dude took off. He's got weapons now. And so Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, the rookies, you saw Trey Harris get involved. I'm sure he's just like, hey guys, this is what it's supposed to look like. So but Breer was pointing out that he, instead of just kind of doing it at the facility, he decided to fly up to Eugene to hang out with Justin for a day and he said he brought a bunch of cut-ups with him of Justin running in the past. And I know Josh Allen was mentioned in there, so there was some Josh Allen that he showed. And I think the point was, if we do this, man, look the hell out. Like, this is, if you're right and you can do it, this is what we need. Because if we can unlock this, man, you want to talk about a ceiling. We got ourselves at the ceiling just went from a standard townhouse at 8 feet to an estate with 12-foot ceilings is kind of what we're looking at. And I think that certainly, judging by what we saw, the play that clinched the game, the 19-yard, the 20-yard run on a 3rd and 13, and the way he used his legs effectively, man, I'm damn excited about how this thing can look moving forward.
You got to be, and how he finished it. It wasn't like a prize. It's sort of like, and you could appreciate this, when Ray Leonard would the quick combination and throw his hands up. The fight's not even over yet, because Justin goes into the slide, the pose. It was one motion. It was like, okay, this fight is over. When he ended, it was like, all right, let me give you this 15th round or 12th round fights. Back in the day, money used to be 15. It was like, you know what? Let me finish off the 12th, the 15th round. Let me give you that 2-piece. And now guess what? It's still 10 seconds, and I'm just going to float like a butterfly because I didn't already stung you like a bee.
No doubt. It was very reminiscent, Lo, because look, they're two complete, like you want to talk about opposite ends of the spectrum and personalities during a game, Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert. But for all the talking that Phillip did, he wasn't like that demonstrative. So in that 2018 playoff game against the Ravens, when he used his legs to pick up that first down and he did the it was like, oh, it's over. It's over. And that's how Herbert is. Like, he's just very controlled and subdued in his celebrations. And when he put that leg in the air, and our man Ty Noel, who is the team photographer, he got that iconic shot just straight on. It's I reposted it on my Instagram, but check out Ty Noel, Nowell. He's got it posted on his. If you want to like make it a screensaver or something like that on your phone, wallpaper on your phone. And that's what I said to some people that, the Chiefs fans, that it used to be one of my favorite places to go before I got the Charger job, and I was calling national games. I did that for 6 years before I got the Charger gig, 7 years before I got the Charger gig. I loved it, man. I'll never forget the first game I ever called at Arrowhead. I had never been there, and I come up the elevator, and I get off in the press box, and I'm looking for the broadcast booth, and gentleman in a red blazer. I may have told this story before because it's such a great story, and I love telling it. Older gentleman in a red blazer looks at me and he's like, "You look like you're lost, young man." And I'm not a young man. And he's like, "Can I help you find something?" And under my breath, I go, "That's mother effing Len Dawson. This is insanity." And so Len Dawson is showing me where I'm going and chatting with me, and I tell him it's my first game, and he's talking to me about the history of Kansas City and how important this team is. And man, I just fell in love with that place. And I told people forever, I was like, look, you can say what you want about Chicago, about Green Bay. This is the best tailgate in the NFL, man. And I had nothing but praise for Kansas City. So understand that's my base point. That's my starting point. What that fan base has turned into over the last 6 years is unrecognizable to me. And, with success comes attitude and a little bit of puffing your chest out. But to have all of them, because they like to interact with me on social media, which is fine. I got no problem with it. But to do the whole, congratulations, you just won your Super Bowl. Act like you've been there before. It's like, hey, easy, man. This is a team that this is a Chiefs team that won 14 consecutive one-score games. That had a 59-1 record against the AFC West since Mahomes became their starter, that had beaten the Chargers 7 straight times. Exactly. And you're flying 11 hours to get to Brazil, and you're 6,000 miles from home, and you're playing in front of the eyes of the nation, and you've had fourth quarter leads, 5 of the 7 losses, and you're able to close that out. You better believe they're going to celebrate. You better believe they're going to treat it like it's something different than just one of 17 in the moment. And if they didn't, I'd be concerned if they didn't. I would hope that they recognize how big of a win this was to set the tone for the season.
Without a doubt. And for Chiefs fans, that's just terrible they act that way because it does. It was, when you look at what's been going on, and we talked about it before the show, 7 times you've beaten the Chargers, and the record that they have the last 7 years, they've been 10 times divisional champions. And it's like you just took down Goliath. Say what you want. And you have a young quarterback that's been trying to get that pelk on his wall, and he's finally accomplished it. So I think it's a huge win. I think it's a big win because you look at Kansas City, and that's why the fans are talking. When they start talking like that, they're not feeling good because guess who's next? Philadelphia for them.
Yeah.
And so you need to get ready to be like, hey, how's that 0-2 feeling? Because they got a tough schedule, and so does the Chargers. I just see this team. The biggest takeaway is I saw a team play collectively. They played great complementary football. You and I,
Yeah.
we talked about what's it going to take to win this game. Defense holding this team under 21 or under 20, they were able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
Defense, not giving up a lot of big plays, they were able to accomplish that. Not giving up any runs over 20 yards, really big plays. They did a great job collectively. Yes, you had that one before halftime, the young fella, he's going to learn from that, stay in bounds, but they ran the ball. They were consistent. They controlled the clock. They gave their defense complementary football. When the offense needed to get some first downs to give their defense a break, they were able to move the field, move the ball down the field, burn up clock. So I think that is the blueprint for this team if they're going to have success. It's a long season. Next up, the Raiders. But I thought this was great complementary football that the Chargers played in week 1.
Yeah, you mentioned the field goal low. They allowed 6 points at the half, right? Last year, I just was pulling it up. That's why I was looking off screen for people that think I wasn't listening to you.
No,
I was. I just wanted to find this. Consecutive first halves with 7 or fewer points allowed. 10 tied the NFL record. Last year, remember, they did that 10 times, and they were able to do it again in this game. So let's shift to that defensive side of the ball and kind of what we saw. One, we weren't sure what the corner situation was going to look like. I think we saw a lot more Cam Hart than we thought we were going to. Assumed it was going to be a heck of a lot of Dante Jackson, Tarheeb Still, and Derwin James, but they were able to kind of rotate Cam in there to keep those guys fresh as well. I thought Tarheeb played an exceptional game. Early on, it was early in the game when they had, I don't remember if it was a sweep. And if it was a sweep I think it was a sweep. I think it was a jet sweep to Hollywood Brown, coming left to right. And they had it blocked up pretty good. And Tarheeb was able to get around his blocker, force Hollywood back inside where Khalil made that tackle.
Made that shoestring tackle.
Exactly.
That was a big play. I saw that. If Khalil doesn't make that play, that could be that play could have hurt him.
That's the exact, and that was made because of Tarheeb, because Tarheeb forced him to come back inside, and that allowed Khalil to make that tackle. So Tarheeb, I thought, had a great game. Dante Jackson, who's known for his hands, 6 interceptions last year, man, had that one pop off his shoulder right before the half. That was a house call. That was a house call. And I'll tell you, just to kind of give people, if you were frustrated at home watching it, our broadcast booth was right next to the coach's booth, and there was glass, so I could see into the Chargers coach's booth upstairs. And typically when you're going to challenge a play, you're asking your coach's booth, because they've got monitors, hey, what are we doing? We've got 40 seconds here. Are we challenging? And nobody had monitors. We had no monitors. So when Dante Jackson on that right sideline was just freaking out, like, I intercepted that ball. We never saw a replay. By the time they had to snap that ball, we never once got a good look as to what was going on there. And so I think the booth was just like, we don't know. We don't know. Now, if I were Harbaugh and I saw Dante and he is that demonstrative, I'm going to throw the flag. I'm like, okay, well, he's freaking out that he intercepted that ball. And then the same thing with the bad spot that led to the 4th and 1 on that 3rd and 16. That should have been spotted as a first down.
He got that first. Right.
We don't have monitors. So that's if you're wondering about the challenge situation, just know that's kind of what the deal was in the coach's booth. But that's what I was going to get to. So Dante Jackson had 2 potential interceptions, maybe one that he actually got and one that bounced off his shoulder. I thought he played a really good game. You had the one mistake by the safeties where they got sucked in and just I think it was a Lowy who passed Hollywood off on that 4th and 7, and he shouldn't have. I think he was supposed to travel with him, and Molden just kind of got stuck in no man's land. And that's how you ended up with Hollywood Brown getting that 49-yard gain on a 4th and 7. Really the only mistake I thought that was made in the secondary, and as opposed to just a guy maybe getting beat here or there. I mean, that was the one kind of hiccup. And the thing is with that, Lo, if you take that one busted play away, and I hate playing that game, but it clearly was, it's a 4th and 7, and it's such a brain cramp, and like something just goes horribly awry there. You're not going to let that guy get deeper than you if you're Molden, unless you think that, point being, you take that out, this is a team that's got 260 yards of offense. That's it. That one play, put them over 300 yards, and that's how good the defense was. But I'll just start there and then let you pick it up from there, Lo, because there's a lot of flowers we can pass out for the defensive side of the ball as well.
Oh, without doubt, Henley played well. When you saw just the way these guys were flying around and keeping everything in front of them. Run game, yeah, you gave up a couple plays, maybe a couple plays had a 10-yard or 9-yard run, but I thought overall, just collectively, the whole unit played well. You're going to give up some plays here and there. Those other guys on the other side of the ball, they get paid too. So I just thought collectively, you're doing a great job keeping Mahomes in the pocket. Thought Mahomes got away with one. I mean, defensive guy comes up and he bikes him out of the show, and he stands over him. You're like, all right, I would get him. You see certain things you laugh at, but I just thought that this team, when you're playing against a team of that caliber, pretty much on the road, in a place that mostly Chiefs fans, and you beat them at their own game. You play bully ball, you play pass. Let me throw the ball. Okay, you think we're going to line up and run down your throat? We can line up and we can beat arguably one of the best, if not the best quarterback in this league, Mahomes, at throwing the ball around the park. Justin Herbert, man, played great. The defense did what they needed to do to keep this offense, shut down Kelsey. Yeah, he had that one play, busted play down the sideline. But when overall, collectively, I just thought this team played great, and both sides of the ball, and defense was lights out.
Yeah, I'll tell you, gosh knows how many of these games I've called, and this is going to probably sound like a shot I don't intend it to be. But I can't tell you how many times I have watched Joey Bosa just try to get there and just get out of his lane and allow Mahomes to break contain and to end up with that explosive play downfield. I thought the pass rush plan, yes, he was able to kind of get outside and get some of those scrambles, but man, you're talking about 5-6 seconds. And the guy, I thought the way that Jesse Minter and Mike Elston coached their edges to just, hey, listen, man, just keep him in there. Just keep him in there. Don't worry about not getting sacks. Don't worry about beating your man. And you can see it when you go back and watch the film. You can see that the gas is not all the way to the floor. They are trying to force him into decisions that he does not want to make. I know the scrambles got away from him a little bit, but I think when you're probably looking at pressures and wondering, whether or not does this group have enough juice? I don't know. I do think a lot of that was by design. I'm anxious to see what it looks like this week against the Raiders, because I thought they ran, what we used to call the NASCAR package with Joey Tooley and Khalil and Morgan Fox all on that line together, just all those guys getting right after it. They ran a handful of plays with Bud outside of Tooley and Khalil on the opposite edge, and man, Tooley was a bull. He was pushing Mahomes off his spot almost immediately. So that got me excited about the potential for Tooley moving forward this season. But I do think maybe because of the scrambling and the fact that that's the only running game they had was Mahomes scrambles, that maybe worries some folks about the pass rush. I think that's by design. That they, believe it or not, they would take those scrambles over those Mahomes hero throws with their guys being plastered downfield once he gets rolling on the outside. And so I think they did a really good job of that. The interior tackle, I mean, Tier had a game for the ages, man. Those 3 batted balls, especially the one on the 2-point conversion. And look, those weren't the 3 best things he did with his hands either. There was one other thing he did with his hands that made my night, that's for sure, and that's slapping Travis Kelce upside his head when he tried to get a little loose with it and shoving Tier after the play and just assuming, oh, yeah, I'm just going to shove this guy 3 seconds after the whistle and expect him to walk back to the huddle. No, you're going to get a freaking David Schultz open hand slap is what you're going to get. Right up to the side of your head.
You love that, huh?
You know what, Lo? I try to keep my distance from the players. I usually let them engage with me. I respect their space, and I don't want to bother them and feel like I'm probing for info or anything. But Tier is one of the guys I've gotten to kind of talk with a few times. He's got little girls. I got 3 daughters, so we kind of have that in common. And I'll just share this. I'm coming down the jetway, and I'm stepping on the plane, and Tier is standing. He's a giant human being. He's standing right there at the door of the plane to get on. And I kind of locked eyes with him, and he locked eyes with me, and he went, and I just, and he held his hand up, and I just slapped that hand, and I just went, F yeah. And he started laughing.
He knew. He already knew. He already knew.
He's like, I know this guy's personality. I know he was into that. And so we just started laughing. And by the way, with my tiny hand and his giant mitt, I was like, ooh, that's a big hand to get hit by upside down.
He got hit by that mitt.
Yeah, I was like,
got hit by that mitt.
Ears going to be ringing a little bit with that one. But yeah, that definitely was a highlight for me, that he was able to put Travis Kelce in his place for trying to get a little extra in there, a little extra shove. And it's like, all right, you want to start it? I'll just finish it right here.
He did finish it. He did finish it. Well, I know they finished Kansas City Chiefs. That was a big win for them. What are you going into the Raiders week?
Yeah.
How do you look at, I know we got to wrap up, but when you think about the Raiders, impressive. I know they played a team that is going through a rebuild with Mike Vrabel, but I thought Geno, very efficient. Geno's a guy, he's hurt the Niners. I covered the Niners too. He's hurt the Niners. He's a guy that plays within himself. You can pressure him, but I kind of think that Geno is a average to good quarterback. He's not the elite, but you can't give this guy time. You can't let this guy get comfortable. You got to make his another guy. You got to make uncomfortable, because if you're not, he can carve you up and hurt you.
I'll tell you what, Lo. I did not get a chance to watch the first half. I watched a pretty good chunk of the second half of that game, and I came out of it like a little. Like, oh, okay. I didn't see a lot from Genty, and then I went back and watched the film, and I'm like, oh, okay. So Genty's got juice, man. For people that are looking at the box score and like, oh, that guy just ran for 2 yards per carry. No, he had about 6 consecutive runs in the second half, at the very end of the second half, when they were bleeding clock, that went for negative yards. Man, that he had some juice. He was trucking some dudes. He ran hard. But I'll tell you, man, my biggest takeaway is Geno Smith, man. He wants it all. He is not interested in checking that ball down, man. He and Chip Kelly, they were drawing up guys that were wide ass open 20 yards down the field, man. And Geno is tough as nails,
he
man.
Sees it.
He sees it. He's standing in there. He's got a big arm. I'm not going to lie. I know Charger fans aren't going to like hearing this, man. It was a fun watch. I was like, man, this is a fun offense to watch. He's got Brock Bowers averaging 20 yards per catch. He would have had.
How do you slow him down? Who's going to slow him down? You think?
I don't know. I don't know if it's just Derwin.
You can't.
There you go, Derwin. He's yours.
He's a tough. This tight end, to me, I'll take him over. Kelsey's in yesterday year.
Yeah.
But right now,
Bowers is crazy.
He's fast. He's strong. He's elusive. He's shifty. You know what? You took care of Kansas City. This Raider team in Vegas, it's going to be a tough out. The Raiders, I hope the Chargers, I know Harbaugh's going to have these guys ready, but this is no layup. I don't think this is a layup. I know that defensively they lost a lot of guys, but their defense really didn't, they really had to see enough.
Okay. Yeah. Defense played okay, Lo. Their secondary, I think that's the difference, is that, Drake May in his second year, with, Stephon Diggs that he's still getting used to, Boutte that got most of the targets. Hunter Henry had a few good passes. Like, I think that's when you're talking about going up against that back seven, I think, Justin, that's where you're going to find the advantage. And also, they didn't have Christian Gonzalez in this game, and so I think you're talking about a secondary of New England that was down a couple guys. But man, I'm a big Chip Kelly guy. You saw what he did at Ohio State last year with Judkins and Henderson in the backfield. Made Jeremiah Smith the most exciting player in college football. and you give him a weapon like Brock Bowers, and he was scheming him open all game long, man. And Michael Mayer then, after Brock Bowers went out, started picking up those chunk plays as a tight end. Trey Tucker, they're all explosives, man. Chino threw, like, think about how effective Herbert was, and he was 9.4 yards per attempt. Gino was 10.6 yards per attempt. Now, I'll say this. The offensive line was a little leaky. He took 4 sacks, and so I think with the better coverage, with the secondary, with Alohi, Elijah, Derwin as your safeties, with Dante and Tarheeb, I do think you can force some more mistakes from Gino. I think he threw a pick. If I remember right, I think it was tipped.
Yeah, Wes. Tight end.
But I do think you can force some of those mistakes. That being said, though, I got a ton of respect for Chip Kelly, man. When he's able just to not be a head coach and just get into that dark room and scheme it up, he's one of the best there is. And it's going to be a lot tougher, I think, than maybe some Charger fans are thinking. I was really, really impressed with what they had going on that offensive side of the ball.
So was I, and it's going to be interesting because I can't wait to see this matchup battle these two backs. I think these are the two best rookie backs in the draft, and I want to see. And that's for me, that's the matchup that I want to see, because I think you have an Amarian that's saying, okay, I think I could be better than Gentry, and I think that this is a game, in my opinion. I don't think Harbaugh said we're going to run you 50, 60 times, but this is that I know as a player. I'm like, you know what? This guy's better than me. Do you think so? I'm going to show you why. So I think this is going to be a good test for our running back. You see an offensive line. I thought the offensive line.
Oh, they played great.
They played great. At times you saw, of course, Trey get a little overextended. The big fella at times went against Jones, but he'll make you look bad anyway. But the left side of the line, the big
Perfect
fella. You told me that left side. The guard, that big, he can play. The guard, those two guys on that left side is pretty amazing to watch. Those guys pass guys off. They're big boys, long arm, keep guys off balance. I thought the offensive line played pretty.
Joe Alt. I don't know how you come out of week 1 and say there's a better left tackle in football than Joe Alt after what he did. I mean, it was Chris Jones. I don't know how many reps it was. It was maybe 4. I think it was 4 reps. 4 or 5 reps that he had against Joe Alt, and he was like, "No,
I'm going to the other side."
Went to the other side. Never rushed against Alt. He made the Chiefs' edges look like children. To the point, there was one play. It was late in the game where they ran a stunt, and he collapsed inside to help Zion out. Was it a run play? I can't remember if it was a run or a pass. I wish I should have wrote it down, darn it. But he collapses inside for the combo and then recognizes the delayed blitz coming, and just with his right hand, just puts his right hand on this guy and just stones him. And it's just like he's still got one hand on the combo block and he's got his left hand on the guy. And I'm like, this, and I saw Jeff Schwartz, who's obviously biased toward the Chiefs, which is fine. You play there and it's all good. But I think I saw him tweet, they built Joe Alt in a lab. This is not a standard human creation. And I'll tell you, man, no. And that's kind of what we said when Rashawn went down, is the Chargers are able to deal with this better than any other team, because you can just move Joe and then you can figure the right side out. Just take care of Justin's blind side. And man, was it taken care of. Now, look, Chris Jones can rush the passer, no doubt. And, whether it's Karlaftis or Dana or who they were, lining up over there. Max Crosby's another, is arguably the best pass rusher in the league. So let's see, how that shakes out. Worked out pretty well last year when they faced off. But I do think this Raider front does have it does have the ability to maybe create some more problems than that Chiefs front does. So I'm anxious to see, if this offensive line can do it in back-to-back games and open up some holes. And I think the difference with the Raiders is what you were talking about, low in the run game. If you can get this thing blocked up right, then I do think, the linebackers for the Chiefs, Chenal and Bolton, are really good. In the secondary, those guys, Connor and McDuffie, they tackle very well. I think you get past that front and you can see Amari, because we could see it, man. You can see it. You're like, oh, I can feel one of these 50s, 60s is coming, man. I know it is, and I think to your point, that's on the table against the Raiders.
No, it is. This is going to be a great matchup to just see what they both these two teams, they don't like each other. And Chip Kelly, and friggin' we know who the head coach is there, and they're going to be going at it. Hardball, they got some history. And this is just, going to be a heavyweight fight. I think the Raiders believe that they're better than they used to be, and they off to a good start. They believe that they're in this game, and rightfully so. And I think the Chargers believe that they have a better team, rightfully so. So this is going to be just a battle of attrition. Guys that make the least amount of mistakes. Which quarterback's going to play? But because Geno is playing, like you said, his first game. Yes, it was a lesser opponent, but he played well. Chip Kelly's going to be pushing the ball down the field. You're going to have to cover. You're going to have to cover every blade of grass. They like to move around. They're going to try to go deep. They're going to run some verticals, and especially because you got Gentry can run the ball. They're going to try to go some play action. You're going to have to stop the run. This is a team we have to stop the run. You can't let them just become both dimensional run and pass, because if you do that, this can be a long day for you. So as the Chargers, you got to say we have to shut down the run.
Yeah.
We cannot let them run the ball efficiently. They can run it, but they can't be effective. We can't let them hurt us, because we know what leads to that. That's when Geno is at his best. When he has a great running game, that's when he can hurt you down the field.
No doubt. Looking forward to it. You got Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh. What's your deal? What's your deal? 3-1 Stanford versus USC. Harbaugh with the edge. Essentially, some people say, ran Pete off. That when Harbaugh took over Stanford and cracked that code and kind of showed it to the rest of the world how to beat USC, doing it 3 of the 4 times they faced each other with inferior personnel. Then he goes to the NFL, and they're 4-4 in the regular season against each other, San Francisco versus Seattle. And, of course, Pete gets the big one in the NFC Championship game, that famous Richard Sherman, Michael Crabtree play there in the corner of the end zone. So, ultimately, 5-4 to Pete's favor. 2 guys that are incredibly prideful and respect each other, but I don't think there's any love lost between these 2 dudes. So it's going to be really fun to get another 2 installments this year of Pete Carroll versus Jim Harbaugh. It was awesome in college. It was great in the NFC West, and now we get it in the AFC West. And I expect it to be a heck of a game. 2 awesome coaches that get their players to play at their maximum. I'm trying to think if we forgot anything. I don't feel like I did, Lo. I'm just kind of
I think you were on it. We were on it.
Was happy to see Najee out there, keep his streak alive of playing in every single game that he's been in the NFL. So, and I thought that run he had was a Najee run, right? It's schemed up for 3 yards, maybe 4, and he gets 5. Perfect. Let's get a lot more of those moving forward. So hopefully got that under his feet, and that was an interesting breakup of snap. You know what? Let me just get your snap counts real quick, just to kind of put a button on it, because I think it'll probably balance out a little bit more. But in that one, you got Amarian with 52, Najee with 12, Hassan with 1. And I think that's why you saw that move made a little bit earlier today with Naheem Hines being released from the practice squad and Mauga coming back with the injury to Denzel Perriman, just to get some linebacker depth. I think it's just recognizing, we got 2 dudes. We got Amarian and Najee, and we'll sprinkle in Hassan if we need to. But it's and I'll say this too, man. Like the fact that you lose the best long snapper in the league and you have no issue with your operation, Josh Harris goes down, Lovato comes in, and they do not miss a snap. They don't miss a beat. JK is, I think, your either second or third best punter in net yardage. Man, what a tackle by Ja, by the way, on that as a gunner on that one punt. And the fact that Cam Dicker has now converted 95 of his 99 field goal attempts. He will attempt his 100th field goal likely against the Raiders on Monday night. And once he does that, 100 is the minimum number of field goals to be put into the conversation of the all-time stats. And he will become the most accurate kicker in NFL history after he attempts that 100th field goal. So it's great to see special teams also show up.
Oh, no question. And Dicker, the kicker, he's amazing. I mean, you got to go. It wins you games. You saw the Niners struggle against Seattle this week. Your kicker missed the extra point, missed the field goal. You barely go to Seattle and win that game. You change the coaching staff. Shanahan, he's going for more on fourth down. You change the coaching. A kicker can change the mindset of a head coach, change the mindset of a team, change the mindset of special teams. You saw the Niners. The second one, he missed one. The second one, the guy looks back because he wants to know if it's going in. He lets a guy jump through the A gap, B gap, and gets blocked. I'm telling you, the Chargers are in great shape with Dicker and the kickers and the special teams that they have. It wins you football games. It's better to have a kicker than not to have one.
No doubt. And they very well may have the best one in the league. So we're looking forward to this one. We gave you an hour. Again, a big thank you to our friends at FanDuel. We talked about it. Chargers laying 3 out there in and thank you to ESPN for not running the games concurrently. Instead, they're going to be back-to-back. You'll have the earlier game. It's Texans, and I can't remember who else. But the Chargers and Raiders will kick it off at 7 p.m. Pacific. So a late one for the folks on the East Coast, but a prime timer for the folks on the West Coast. So looking forward to it. They got 3 games against the division to start the season. They're already 1-0. Can they improve to 2-0? And then be thinking about going 3-0, having already defeated each of your division opponents going into week 4 against New York, man. What a great time to be a Charger fan. This team looks so good on Friday night, and I can't wait to see what they look like on Monday night. Low.
Bolt up, baby. Let's go.
Here we go. Bolt up. Let's go.